Before I start, I just want to say that, I was one of the founding members of Unbounded Capital, and I've been in this space for over half a decade. And it's really an honor to share the stage with so many great entrepreneurs who I got to know first as an investor and now have the opportunity to work alongside and build alongside. So thank you all for making it such a joy to be a part of this ecosystem. So we do NFTs, and you might ask why, and it's a fair question. My answer, and don't worry, I'll back this up, is that I actually think NFTs are the biggest opportunity in technology today. If your mind jumped straight to this sad little monkey, then I'm very sorry, because this is actually not what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, but I'm going to take a step back before I explain what this is, just to kind of try and contextualize the opportunity that we're pursuing. So, any George Gilder fans here? Yeah. George Gilder, great author who has written a lot about technology revolutions, and he illustrated something of a historical trend that I found to be really fascinating, which is basically he identified that very often when you have sort of a technology revolution, what actually happened is that something that used to be really expensive, that was sort of the limiting factor, becomes either suddenly or over a very quick period of time abundant. And not only that, but the winners, the people who really come out of those revolutions with something incredible, like with energy, a Rockefeller, a Standard Oil, or with the microchip, an Intel, or AWS, Amazon, with the introduction of the fiber optic cable and the ability to now all of a sudden transfer data across the world extremely cheaply. There tend to be some really, really big winners when you have a shift like this and something that used to be this extremely expensive limiting factor becoming this abundant resource. So what is this tech revolution that's underway where NFTs are playing such a central role? It's a little abstract, unfortunately, but I'm going to do my best to contextualize it. And I think that you can start to understand it by looking at what happened to money with Bitcoin. So if I had to say what is the thing that was scarce that is now abundant, I think probably the simplest way to describe it would be interoperability. And it's really interoperability in a digital context. And I think money is a really good way to understand this, because money is kind of, it's the ultimate form of interoperability. The whole point of money is that no matter where I go in terms of going to a store, going to a place on the internet, my money is always good. My money always has a role inside of the application, and that's why we use it, and that's why it's valuable. So what did Bitcoin do? We can see its effect through how money works before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin. Before Bitcoin, and in terms of what is the best way of making a payment with money today without Bitcoin, a lot of people would point to Stripe, very successful company. And their business models, they charge 30 cents and 3% roughly of your transaction. So it's affordable, obviously, but it's rather expensive. With Bitcoin, now that number is this, and it's so low that I don't even know what to call it. This is going from a limiting factor to abundance. Now, why NFTs? And I'll talk about that more in a second, but I think that something just to notice here is that it wasn't necessarily that Bitcoin fixed money. Bitcoin fixed data. And what Bitcoin did is it made it so that you could create data that could be used as money. And so what are the things that money needs from a data standpoint? You need data that's secure. You need data that is verifiable. And you need data that's ownable. And when you have that, you have data that can be used the way that money is used, which is essentially, used for its interoperability. If you went back to someone in, 1780, and you said, hey, you're in the midst of an energy crisis, like you have no energy relative to our standards, they would probably be a little bit confused. If you took our society and you took us back to the levels of energy being produced, at that time, we'd basically all die. So I think that we're kind of in 1780 still with regards to interoperability. And if you talk to someone in that time period and you said, "Oh, we're going to all of a sudden have this huge abundance of energy, what do you think the world is going to look like?" I don't think that they would, have a very accurate understanding of what was to come. It's hard to know what the world looks like after one of these revolutions. And I think with something like interoperability, people tend to they say, "Oh, we already have interoperability on the internet. I can go and I can buy my ticket at United and it's all of a sudden it's in my Apple wallet." That's interoperability. What else do we really need? We're we have interoperability today, but it's expensive. Why is it expensive? It's because you have to follow these steps, and these steps are expensive. You have to create a secure data silo first. Everyone knows silos are bad. They're expensive, they're limiting, but they're also necessary today because a lot of this data, it has to be secure, it has to be private, it's associated with someone's identity. You can't just let anyone access it. And then you have to build an API on top of that. You have to build an authentication system. Someone has to integrate that. And this is all just to connect two applications together. So this is a lot of investment for not a lot of payoff at the end of it. So again, why are NFTs the biggest opportunity in technology today? What NFTs do is they actually transform a user of an application. So people talk a lot about owning your own data, which is exciting. Of course, we want to own our data. We don't want Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk owning our data. But I think it's often framed maybe in the wrong way. It's framed, you don't have to trust applications anymore. The way I look at it is that applications can't trust you. And that's a problem. The average user today with the tools that are available can't actually be a source of their own data that's reliable, that's trustworthy, that's secure. Blockchain changes that. And that is where this revolution comes into play, is because blockchain elevates the user from not being able to fulfill this role within an application ecosystem to all of a sudden being a bridge that actually connects applications. And so with blockchain, we go from this world where you spend huge amounts of money just trying to connect application A to application B to now a world where every application on the internet is effortlessly connected to one another. And that's where the possibilities are it's almost overwhelming. And I feel very much like the farmer in 1780 who's just found out what oil is. And I have no idea what's going to happen. But I've seen enough just with the work that we've done at Asset Layer to know that this is an opportunity worth pursuing. So, why NFTs? In a nutshell, I believe that the future of the internet is going to be driven by users who own NFTs being this connective tissue that creates new opportunities for interoperability in the internet, that reshapes the architecture of the internet as we know it, and that opens up amazing new possibilities. And that the NFT is really going to be to this next internet, what the data packet has been to the internet of today. So that's a lot of preamble. We had this vision for interoperability. So what's the next step? Obviously, we had to build a digital pet game where you raise little cute dogs. Um, but in all seriousness, we built this game Duro Dogs because we wanted to experience for ourselves what is it actually like to try and build in this way where you're building where the user is fulfilling this role of being a bridge across applications. So in Duro Dogs, you as a player, you own these dogs, you own their clothes. These are all NFTs. You can raise your dog. Your dog gets experience. You can name it. It levels up. It gains new abilities. And what we've done that is really, really unique, and that I'm extremely proud of, is that Duro Dogs is not only the first blockchain game, but actually the first game in general where you actually have these user-owned digital assets, these characters that uh, have a function that can be used across multiple games, and where these games are hosted totally independently and are actually created by third parties. So this is a totally new type of gaming ecosystem, and it points to the power with something like interoperability. Because a small team like us, we have no shot at competing with a AAA studio that's putting $100 million behind a title. But when we can actually leverage a creator economy by making the by making it so seamless to actually interoperate with what we're doing, then we can see a game like Duro Dogs, and I don't know that Duro Dogs is going to be that game, but it could be a game like Duro Dogs having 100,000 different titles attached to it created by 100,000 different developers. And that is the type of internet that really, really excites me. So, quickly, what does Asset Layer actually do? So, we're a platform that makes it as simple and affordable as possible to create NFTs, to integrate NFTs into applications, and to share NFTs across applications. And we've gotten pretty good at that. So good that you can actually, like I said, share those NFTs really with the click of a button, such that you are in this paradigm where you are so effortlessly and seamlessly connected to every other application in our ecosystem. And it's a really unprecedented and powerful type of experience for an application developer. Um, we provide services to application developers. As a platform, we face developers, we face creators, and we face application users. And so we're not just helping people build apps, but we're helping people who use applications fulfill this new role of the user in these application ecosystems and making it as seamless and simple as possible to fulfill this obligation of when I go to a new application, I bring my data with me. And I think we've done a really good job at making it so that users don't even necessarily know that that's happening. They're just experiencing the benefits as they play a game like Duro Dogs. And they go from Duro Dogs to other games in our ecosystem like Bark Battle or Rough Runner. We launched our private beta this past November. We had a handful of alpha customers, and we've been experiencing really, really quick growth. These numbers are already out of date. And I think at this point, we have over 50 teams now building in our private beta. We're really focused on B2C applications. And so a lot of that is gaming, but there's also things in digital media, consumer rewards, social media, e commerce. And a lot of these things also play together, which is really exciting. Um, we also have we just did a partnership with a company called Enchain, who's helping us connect with some really, really amazing companies, some household names that I'm really excited to potentially be able to share with you very soon. Quickly, one of our first customers was Haste Arcade, who you just heard from. So we power now 5 different games and apps that are using NFTs. And in addition to this, one of our Duro Dogs games, Rough Runner, is actually part of the Haste Arcade. And that's another way of showing the power of interoperability is that Haste Arcade becomes a way of driving traffic to a game like Duro Dogs and vice versa. So just a quick summary. I believe NFTs are the top opportunity in technology today. The reason why is that NFTs turn users into a bridge between applications that allows for interoperability and connectivity between applications in a way that is totally new and incredibly powerful. We built a platform to make it as simple and affordable as possible to create NFTs, to integrate NFTs into applications, and to share NFTs across applications. And our platform is live and growing fast. And if you want to know more about how to use it or why it might matter, just come find me and I'll look forward to speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. So now we've had a few new faces here. So just for everyone here to know, the event today is called Unbounded Perspectives. And the goal for that is to get as many different perspectives as possible in the room chatting with one another. And, the goal for this is hopefully everyone leaves having asked at least one question to someone on stage and having experienced a few different perspectives that they weren't aware of before coming in. So with that, especially for those of you that haven't asked any questions today, any questions for asset layers, Jackson Laskey? Okay, Joe DePinto.
Jack, thank you. Outside of gaming or, these JPEG art pieces, if you want to call them that, what industry do you think NFTs would fit very nicely into today?
Yeah, I think today, um, well, I mean, it's interesting. What we're focused on is more B2C. So I think if I'm just thinking in the B2C world, I would definitely look at like loyalty programs is a really great place to start because you can use NFTs for things both like coupons as well as obviously, digital collectibles, those sorts of things. And we've seen some of the largest loyalty programs in the world, like Starbucks going in this direction, doing their own blockchain integrations, trying to take advantage of NFTs. And a big part of that is, again, interoperability. Starbucks wants it to be so that your Starbucks points and Starbucks rewards get you benefits at other places because you can only drink so much coffee. Well, I guess some people push that, but whatever. And vice versa. If I take an Uber, I want those points to be able to be used at Starbucks. So I definitely think that consumer rewards is a really, really fruitful place. One other thing that I'll just say that it's not really our focus, but supply chain. This is when people talk about supply chain and blockchain, those are all NFTs. So I think that's another place where NFTs are really powerful.
Hey, Jack, great presentation. First of all, I want to say that I have first-hand experience of how great what asset layer does is. I mean, it's like there's nothing quite like it in all Web 3.0, crypto, whatever. So I'm telling you that it is something very unique, and the design of the API, I know it firsthand. He showed me like a few months ago, and it's incredibly good. So congratulations on that. I think you're doing something that nobody else is doing, and I think it's very, very needed for making NFTs something with wider adoption. So I wanted to ask you about what are your thoughts about using NFTs for things like access tokens slash sharing subscriptions. So for example, um, for example, if you just want to watch a new TV show that just dropped, right, and you want to just watch it in a week, could it be possible? Do you think it would be interesting for companies to be able to have this secondary market for access to their platform in a way that you don't have to sign up with credit card and identity or whatever? Just you can just on a secondary market, if you have this token, you can access Netflix for a week or whatever, and you can then resell it or whatever. Do you think that is something that could be interesting to company? I think it would be interesting for users, but I don't know if you think that companies would be interested in something like that.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much. That was a really kind thing you said, Alex. And many of you guys know hand cash is really what makes all this possible for us as well.
But it is true. All I said.
um, the access tokens use case is really interesting. The way I look at it is actually that the secondary market element I think is less interesting and less attractive. A lot of times when people think of NFTs, they're really focused on the fact that you can trade it or you can sell it. And that's true and that's great. But when I think of NFTs more so as like the data structure for Web3, a lot of times you don't want data to be transferable in that way. And so when I think about something like an access token or a subscription, I look at it more as how can I really easily unify, a subscription across, let's say, many different websites. So I want to have a subscription to the New York Times, and that also gets me a subscription at, you know, 10 other newspapers. How do you actually implement that? Today you probably have to have your own API authentication system, all that. But what that could look like is just I have some NFT that's associated with me. My identity is based on my email address. And if I have a subscription to this bundle of outlets, then every time I log in, they just check and make sure that my subscription is still valid, looking at an NFT that's attached to my identity. And boom, I'm in and I'm reading this article. Um, so I almost think of it like the next phase of the cookie. Uh, the cookie is obviously a huge part of how people communicate through a user today through the browser. And the NFT is almost just sort of a supercharged cookie in a way. So I definitely think that helping to transcend some of the limitations of APIs and ways that applications not only communicate to themselves but communicate with their partners, that can be transformed by NFTs.